Yes, good morning, participant. Good morning to this ISLA webinar series, Gyan Ganga series. Very good. So, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Anish ji. Good morning, Arun Kumar ji, Ashok Kumar ji. I request to all the participants to change your name on display so that we, whenever the question answer and chat is going on, we'll come to know who is asking the question. Right? So I request somebody in the name of 6C91FDFA, somebody is in the name of 845314. So you have to just go to the, you have to click on your name, and then there is an option will come rename. So in rename, you have to just put it your name. I will request to everybody who has not put their name so that I mean, speaker as well as host will come to know who is asking the question. Saxena ji, we will take the questions and answer in last 10 to 15 minutes. So I will request while the lecture is on, don't raise your hand or don't put anything disturbance for other participants. Yeah, thank you for your cooperation, sir. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, there are many members joining till the time around about 180 members joined. Still member is joining. We'll wait for another 1 or 2 minutes. So today's session we are going to even live also. We are trying for that YouTube. If at all is anybody is not able to see, you can able to see after 2 o'clock uploaded in YouTube channel also. Our channel is Training and Education ISLA. So it will remain over there. For the person who is not attending or who is facing any problem like is not able to listen or not able to see, so don't create a disturbance. It is all about your network connection, the bandwidth, because whatever the platform we are using, it's a Google, it's a cloud platform. So it will always that it all depend on the your network connection, the your bandwidth. So if you are facing any problem in that, just check your network connection. Otherwise, it will be also available on YouTube. So don't. Yes, Mr. Sharma ji, we will be provided document on Monday once I received it from this Mr. Asu, right? Very good. So I again warmly hello. Yeah. So again, welcome to all the participants, all the ISLA members on this webinar Gyan Ganga series. Today, yes. Shukla sir, you can share your screen.
Okay.
members are joining. We'll wait for 1 minute because somebody is sending message. They are not able to join in. So we are just waiting for 1 minute. Meanwhile, you can share the screen.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. हमारी फोटो आ रही है उधर? अच्छा. Okay, folks. Good morning, all of you. Can you hear me?
So there is an echo coming from your side. Just check for the second connection whether it is on. So yeah, now it's okay. Now it's okay.
Okay. Okay.
So today we have our own famous and
Okay, folks. So welcome to this webinar session, all of you. I think for 1 hour onwards, we are going to unfold the machinery insurance policy. And the purpose of this presentation is broadly to share my knowledge and also to clear some doubts in your mind. First of all, is it a machinery insurance policy, breakdown policy, or is it a machinery insurance policy? It is basically a machinery insurance policy. The breakdown word has come later on. If you see, initially, if you see old policies, it was a machinery insurance policy. It was not a machinery breakdown policy. Now, when the private players have come, they have changed the name from machinery insurance policy to machinery breakdown policy. And why I am saying that it's not only a machinery breakdown policy, it's a machinery insurance policy. I'll let you know when I'll make further presentation. It's a much beyond than breakdown policy. So this will be my lecture plan. What is the scope of cover? What is the location of cover? What is the limit of liability? What is the important exclusion? Special exclusions, requirement of the sum insured, basis of indemnity, important endorsement, and recent development. So these are 9 points which I am going to discuss with you. And let's see, first of all, scope of cover. Now, what can be covered in this policy and what cannot be covered? All types of industrial machinery used for production purpose, whether new or old, they can be covered under this policy. What can't be covered? Machinery under erection and testing, as you know, they cannot be covered. They are the only operational machinery can be covered here. The machinery under testing and erection shall be covered under the ER policy and other policy. The computer biomedical equipment are covered under electronic equipment policies, so they cannot be covered here. Now, declined machinery, certain machines are declined by the insurance company because of the very high claim ratio. Rolling mill, stands, PVC, another lined vessel, oil-fired furnace, pumps, and glass, graphite, rubber impeller, line, portable mobile equipment, and any imported machinery that cannot be repaired here. Now, this has changed, in fact. Now, who can insure? Owner of the machinery or holding the machine in trust or having financial interest in the said machinery, he can insure the machine, because anybody who has an insurable interest in the machine can insure the property. What is covered under a machinery insurance policy? That's a very important point. What is covered? Any unforeseen and sudden physical damage by any cause not excluded. What is covered? Any unforeseen and sudden physical damage by any cause not excluded. See this machine, you can, if this machine is under breakdown, you can physically see the physical damage. You can physically see the unforeseen physical damage. But here, this is a card. In this card, if this card fail, you can't see it physically. You can't, I mean, the failure or the part component which failed in this card, you can't see visibly. You can only see it when you apply multimeter or any electrical device or any jig where to put and find where the fault has occurred. So physical does not really mean visible. That was my point. Physical does not really mean visible. Here it is visible, here it may not be visible, but it may be electrically failed. So it is also comes under physical damage by any cause not excluded. So this, can you say once more? Any unforeseen and sudden physical damage by any cause not excluded. What we mean by sudden physical damage? Sudden means what? If a machine is running and suddenly the its connecting rod broke during operation, so you say a sudden noise and you can estimate, yes, this machine is suddenly damaged. But does it really suddenly damage? Because there are all progressive reaction before this sudden thing what you have physically seen has occurred. There may be a lubrication failure, partial lubrication failure. There may be a blockage in the filter, suddenly lack of lubrication, suddenly it is overheating, suddenly, because there may be a sequence of happening before you see the sudden result. And the outcome is broken connecting shaft, connecting rod. So sudden means here is not happening. Sudden is means knowing. It may not happen suddenly, but it came to your knowledge suddenly. That is point I wanted to make here. So sudden is means knowing, not happening, because nothing happens suddenly. There will be a previous sequence of happening which ultimately result in the failure which you physically see during operation. So that's the point I am trying to make here. Now, what kind of causes we can summarize in general, though the definition is quite large, any sudden physical damage. But here I have tried to some mechanical causes, try to summarize some mechanical causes which can be covered. But this list does not contain everything. It does not contain, because anything can happen. But I have just broad outline, given some broad outline. Faulty material design, construction or erection, vibration, maladjustment, misalignment, defective lubrication, loosening of part, abnormal state, molecular fatigue, self-heating, centrifugal forces due to internal pressure, explosion due to external pressure, or implosion internal vacuum. These are the internal mechanical causes. Now let's see what are the broad internal electrical causes of breakdown. Excessive electrical pressure, whether due to atmospheric electricity or otherwise, failure of insulation, overrunning, short circuit, leakage of electricity, open circuit, arcing, including damage by internal fire source setup, failure of connected machinery or protective devices. Here you see atmospheric electricity. Here it means lightning. It means that if lightning is struck somewhere as a result of which equipment failed, as I've discussed in my previous lecture about the fire peril, it will be covered here in machinery insurance policy, not in fire policy, though lightning is a covered peril under the fire policy. The reason which I have explained there also, because it is primarily a breakdown and it is excluded there. So even if it is failed policy. Now I'll discuss few of these uh, this thing, because there are a lot of confusion about there. Somebody will say molecular fatigue is not covered. Somebody will say what is excessive electrical pressure, what we mean by excessive electrical pressure. Somebody will say overrunning, overloading. So there are confusion about these two terminologies. So I've tried to clear those confusion, that what is excessive electrical pressure, what we mean by overrunning, and what we mean by material molecular fatigue, and what we mean by abnormal stresses. Abnormal stresses may be confused with overloading, and overrunning may be because of the bad operation, but it's not the case. Let's see one by one. What is overrunning? Now, principle, if you see overrunning in a machine, now when a motor runs, the output speed and torque both in current until it reaches to the rated speed. All of you agree with this. Having worked for a long period at rated speed, a back EMF is generated in the motor core, increasing significantly. Anybody who knows electrical engineering, he can very well say that if the motor runs for a prolonged time at the rated speed, a back EMF is generated. This is basically called Lenz law. You must be aware of this. Now, the highest torque is produced at the time when the highest torque is produced, called the knee point. Now, beyond this, when the motor goes beyond it, a back EMF start increasing with the constant power and proportionate reduction in current. It means the back EMF supersedes the actual EMF, which tends to drive the motor. And this ultimately results in decreased torque, but the speed keeps on increasing beyond the rated speed till it reaches maximum possible speed. Operation beyond which causes damage to the motor. This is maybe thermal or mechanical. So overloading is basically nothing but when the motor is run for a prolonged period at this optimum speed, and when the back EMF taken over the original EMF produced, which create the torque, so which tends to increase the, which will increase the RPM, but the current will lower down, right? The speed will go on, and as a result of this, there will be thermal and mechanical stress on the motor. Now in India, generally all electrical machines are designed 5-degree temperature. Now, if it goes beyond 45 degrees, the maximum output capacity of the machine is reduced. That is how overrunning damages the machine. So this is the basic principle of the overrunning, and this is I try to explain with the technical principle here. Pressure words is little confusing. What is we need? What we mean by electrical pressure? Excessive electrical pressure. What we mean by electrical pressure? Let's see what we mean by. Now, the electrical current moves with electron in a conductor. That's a basic principle. The force which pushes these electrons to the limit of circulation in conductor is called electromotive force, sometimes referred as electrical pressure. I mean, the force which pushes the electrons to move within a conductor as a flow of electricity, that is called EMF or the electrical pressure. Now, when there is excessive electrical pressure, in a machinery, higher ampere current than rated will flow, causing overheating of the electrical part of the machine, and machine will heat. This happens in case of a sudden voltage spike. Here you see a sudden voltage spike in a, these are the points of the sudden voltage spike. If there is a voltage spike, sudden increase in voltage for a very short period of time in the supply, high current will drawn to the by the connected load machinery. It also causes heavy losses to the equipment that will result in the form of heat generation. So sudden voltage spike, sudden voltage push may lead to the high current, means machine will get heat and it may fail. So that is the meaning of excessive electrical pressure in a machinery. Now what we mean by short circuiting? Technical, short circuiting is a very common word. I mean, a circuit is short. You make a circuit and it's short, and how it affects. And short circuiting is a very, very common phenomenon. But if you see the machinery insurance policy, you will not find these words anywhere in the machinery insurance policy. I mean, somebody, in one of the case, I submitted a report to the insurance company and I mentioned the cause of loss as high voltage. The person who was processing the file, he asked me, Shuklaji, where in this policy the high voltage is covered, high voltage is mentioned. I was new, very new. So as a routine report, as a general cause, I mentioned, my senior told me that you mentioned high voltage as the cause of loss and the file will be through. But he asked me a question, sudden question, because I am not well conversant with the machinery insurance policy. When he asked me this question, I have no reply because I did not find that word anywhere in the policy. You see, the entire policy, you will not find this word in the policy. What it suggests is any sudden, unforeseen physical damage. That is what covered. So all of these causes which may occur into sudden physical damage to the machine. So they are causes. They are not peril. They are causes. They are the causes which cause sudden physical damage to the machine during its operation. Right? Now see word short circuiting. Now electricity, as you know, is made of charge, and charges always seek the shortest way to travel way back to complete the circuit. When the two carrying wire, positive and negative, somehow touch each other, the current which should pass through the connected load find the shorter way. Here, positive and negative charge are short. They should have gone through this load. Instead of this load, they are short. So once they are short, what happened? The resistance become negligible, right? As a result, I become very high. The current become very high. That is called short circuit current. This is basically Ohm's law. You must have read in very early classes. So once this resistance, because of the shorting, become negligible, so current becomes high because R value becomes very, very low. So these are the reasons that why short circuit occurred. Now shorting in a motor insulation between turns of the winding weakens and causes loss of power and greatly reduce the performance of increased losses. Shorted cables, two different terminals touch each other accidentally and causes huge amount of heat. So this is the short circuiting in a machine. Now what is arcing? Now when there is a gap between two oppositely charged terminals, electron on the negative terminal tries to find a path to jump to the positive one. That is, electron is desperate to create a conduction through the non-conductive medium, which is air in fact. Now, if the potential difference is sufficiently high, the potential difference between these two connections is sufficiently high in spite of their gap, it tends to ionize the air, occupying the gap between them. The current passes through the air, producing plasma, which may produce visible light. But the condition there should be a sufficiently high potential difference between the two terminals. Only then this will happen. Plasma is the basically fourth state of matter other than solid, liquid, gas, which exists only at a very high temperature. Here you see a high current connection in a high ST line. Just it releases, you see how much flash it generates. This is the arcing. This is basically the arcing. The definition of an open circuit is broken path for an electrical current due to open switch or frayed wire. When this terminal accidentally gets near any metallic body, sometimes the machine itself, it produces arc with very high temperature with visible spark that can cause fire and other severe damage to the machine. This is how you see fire basically due to arcing in an electrical machine. Now, I have discussed 3 important electrical reasons. Now, I discussed 3 important mechanical reasons. Generally confused with why specifically I've chosen these 3, because abnormal stresses we confuse with overloading, molecular fatigue we confuses with electrical manufacturing defect, and explosion implosion, as you know, is covered there in the fire policy, but the equipment causing explosion is excluded there, which is covered here in the machinery policy. Now let's see abnormal stresses. Now these are the kind of stresses we face when any machine, any part working within a machine. It can be stress to the several reasons. It may be a compressive stress, it may be a tensile stress, it may be a shear stress, it may be a torsional stress, it may be bending stress. That by picture you can see that any part, any machine, any part working within a machine can have these kind of stresses during operation. But if they are sustained for a long time, they are not being addressed by the operator or by the maintenance, so they can result into the failure of the machine. By pushing, squeezing against something is a compressive stress, tensile stress that you see by these directions, and shear stress is here just by shearing, slippage along a plane causing change in shape, and twisting of a structure shaft is called the torsional stress, and this is bending and reshaping of a structure. So these are the broadly stress, abnormal stress in the machinery. Now molecular fatigue, that's very important. Now fatigue is what? Fatigue is the weakening of a material caused by cyclic loading that results in progressive and localized structure damage and the growth of a crack. Once a fatigue crack is initiated, each loading cycle will grow the crack a small amount, typically producing striations on some part of the fracture surface. This leads to the ultimate failure of the machine. It slowly grow. A small crack appear in a cyclic motion, and the example here is a machine that involves reciprocating or repeated motion with a certain amplitude like piston cylinder. They are most prone to it. The fatigue failure is caused by initiation and propagation of cracks developed in the piston as a result of undesirable operational condition and material defect. So anything moving in a cyclic motion, once put to a stress, it will create a fatigue, and that cyclic load, if go on not being addressed, go on increasing, so it will create a crack. So these can be witnessed in number of piston you can see when they are open during normal operation. Even an engine, if it is working without any problem, but if you open it, you'll find this fatigue mark. though it has not resulted any breakdown, but you can see the fatigue mark in engine. Now, explosion and implosion. Now, when a machinery structure that works under pressure can not withstand the internal pressure buildup due to any reason, results in the fluid coming out of violent burst. This is called explosion. Here you see a road, and every material of which the tank is made, it has certain tolerance, certain capacity, and if it goes beyond that, it will yield and produce a explosion effect. When the pressure inside the pressure vessel increases past that ultimate stress, it explodes violently. It can occur to the in a compressor and boiler, etc. So this is a typical case of explosion. And this is a simple experiment showing. Here you see a small container which has chemical, and like hot chemical, which is in the form of the gas. It contains some hot chemical, some residual hot chemical in the form of a gas. And if you suddenly cool it, so what will happen? The particle of the chemical, which have a high molecular energy within this drum, they'll come closer because of the cooling, and suddenly it will give a collapse. It will collapse inside. So once it was originally there was a high temperature of the chemical inside, so there is a molecular energy, there is a gap between the molecule, but suddenly once you cool it with the cool water, sudden cooling will result in get releasing of the molecular energy. There's molecule coming closer and causing a collapse in the drum. That's it. Now, these are the how basically we can explain phenomenon, what happened, the basic Ohm's law. Now, if short circuit occurs, it means what? Resistance is nil, current is high, and voltage is nil. Now, open circuit means resistance very high, voltage very high, current is nil. Excessive electrical pressure means voltage very high, resistance constant, and current very high. Now, leakage of electricity means current very high, heat generation high, very high, heat generation very high, and losses very high. So these are the phenomena, these are the event which may occur, right? And these are the phenomena you can observe. This is basically nothing but Ohm's law. Based on this, these things are being here. Now, coming to this what is covered, and now what is covered under a machinery insurance policy? What is covered? External causes, lack of skill, carelessness of malice person. This is also covered, whether in the insured employment. Earlier we have discussed internal causes, mechanical causes, and electrical causes. Now we are discussing external causes. Now the three causes. We have earlier discussed electrical causes. Then we have discussed mechanical causes. Now we are discussing external causes, which are neither mechanical nor electrical. Now external causes. Lack of skill, carelessness, or malice of a person, whether in the insured employment or not, that is covered in the policy. Falling, impact, collision, and like if something fell on the machine during operation, it is also covered. It's not purely there's some breakdown occur. If something fell on the machine, a machine is tall and something fell on the machine, it is also covered. Or machine fell during shifting or during operation, it is also covered in the policy. Obstruction of entry of foreign body. Now location of cover. Now the scope of cover is over. Now coming to the location of cover. Where it can be covered. What are the location of cover? The cover remain in force at insured location of loss at work or at rest, during dismantling for the purpose of cleaning or rolling, during shifting within the premises or during subsequent erection. Yes, I want your attention here again. Earlier in my starting remark, I said it's not a machinery breakdown policy. In fact, it is a machinery insurance policy. Why I have said it? Because of these three things. All these three things are not related to any breakdown. You see, at insured premises work at less, this during dismantling, if during dismantling of the machine or cleaning of the machine, something is damaged, it is also covered. Now, during shifting within the premises, if the machine is being shifted from one area to other area, it is also covered. So that's why it is not only a machinery breakdown policy, it is a machinery insurance policy. Now, limit of liability. It shall not exceed in aggregate in one case period of insurance than the sum insured, unless the sum insured under said item be restated after occurrence of claim of the balance policy. This is a restatement condition, you know. The sum insured is to be restated, but in machinery insurance policy, the sum insured is automatically restated because at the time of claim, the balance premium is already adjusted by the insurance company. So that's the point. Now, what are the important exclusions? This is exclusion. Losses covered in fire policy, they are excluded. And extension of a special peril, yani add-on cover, they are also excluded. Yani all losses which are covered under fire policy, they are not covered here. All add-on cover under fire policy, they are not covered here, except busting or disruption of turbine, compressor, cylinder of steam engine, hydraulic cylinder, or flywheel or other apparatus subject to centrifugal forces, internal pressure. This red portion, if you see, it was exclusion under the fire policy, which we have discussed earlier. Like I have given example of the turbine, I have given example of the compressor. If a turbine works, its impeller works under pressure, steam pressure, and what happened? The impeller broke down, hit the casing of the turbine, and came out by busting the turbine. So you will see an effect of explosion because there's a pressure. But this is not a case of explosion. This is a case of breakdown because there was a breakdown causing the explosion like effect for simple reason because the turbine works under pressure. It is because of the pressure you see a effect of busting. So this is covered here in the theft, collapse of building, water which escape from the water containing apparatus. Now here I see I'm showing a slide. Here you see this is a impeller, you see is working, and suddenly you see fire. So this is not a case of fire. This is a case of breakdown, right? This is a case of breakdown. The aerospace inside. This is a Boeing 737 engine impeller under testing, and this engine suddenly you see effect of fire. So here you see fire, but this is a case of breakdown. So this is the example I'm trying to give you. Now see the difference between busting, disruption, and explosion. There are two things. Busting due to centrifugal forces, internal pressure in a mechanical or hydraulic equipment. So there's difference between, you should not confuse between busting and explosion and disruption. There are two things. I'm trying to explain a point-wise explanation here. I'm trying to give you. Busting due to centrifugal forces, internal pressure in a mechanical or hydraulic equipment normally occurred in equipment having centrifugal or reciprocating movement impeller under pressure like turbine normally occurred after an internal breakdown. The proximate cause is a mechanical failure, right? And the effect you see as explosion because of the pressure. Now explosion, tearing apart, busting violently due to sudden pressure buildup. So it occurs because of the sudden building of the pressure. There is no breakdown following an explosion. It is precisely a sudden explosion. Normally occurred in a static equipment. Normally occurred due to excessive pressure. Proximate cause is excessive pressure. So either the proximate cause is excessive pressure. Here the proximate cause is mechanical pressure. So that is the difference between busting or disruption and explosion. Now there's another extension. This is control of electrical exclusion in fire policy. What is being excluded in fire policy as electrical exclusion, and this is being inclusion. This is electrical exclusion as compared to the electrical exclusion there. If you compare, there the word was lighting excluded. Here the word is lighting included. So it is just reverse this. It means whatever not covered under electrical exclusion is covered here in the machinery insurance policy. Any loss or damage by fire within the electrical appliances and installation insured by this policy arising from or occasioned by overrunning, excessive pressure, short circuiting, arcing, self-heating or leakage of electricity from whatever cause, lightning included, is covered provided that this extension shall apply only to the particular machine operators, fixture fitting or portion of the electrical installation so affected, and not to other machine operators, fixture or portion of the electrical installation which may be destroyed or damaged by fire so set up. Now this is the current state of electrical inclusion in fire in the machinery policy, which is control of electrical exclusion. Now see what is now the electrical exclusion in the fire policy. Let us compare. So before 2001, they are just contrast. What is being included here is excluded here. What is being excluded here is included here, right? But after 2001, a change is made in the fire policy. What change is made? A portion of electrical installation, is what is removed here. Now, the exclusion in the fire policy, a change is made, furniture, fixture, fitting, or any portion of the electrical installation is changed. What does it mean? Now they say, if suppose there is a control panel and there is a short circuiting in one of the cubicle of the control panel, and suddenly the supply from OCB trip and other cubicle of the control panel, they burn purely because of the spread over of the fire from the cubicle which really undergone breakdown, and other cubicle because they were not charged because the supply was stripped from OCB. So they are all other portion of the electrical installation. So before 2001, if surveyor able to prove that only this portion of electrical installation was damaged due to breakdown and this portion was not damaged to the breakdown, then he can pay that claim under fire policy of the portion which is not damaged to the breakdown. Now in 2001, because of the lot of controversies, they have removed the word a portion, saying that under any circumstances, you have to claim the entire electrical equipment now under breakdown policy, no matter a part of which is damaged because of the electrical short circuiting or because of the spread over of the fire thereafter. Now it is to be entirely covered under the electrical breakdown policy. That change is made. But the corresponding change is not made here. MI policy, it is still there. So that's a confusion. I mean, here the change is made, but here change is not made. So that may create confusion sometime. And I don't know why it is not done here and how it is being overlooked and what is the purpose of it. Because if you made a corresponding change here, you have to make the corresponding change here, right? Here you are saying we'll only allow a portion, and you are saying we'll not allow a portion. You have to come. You have to now claim the entire equipment under the machinery insurance policy. So that is a flaw which I have observed, which is to be done. Now, I'm doing some case studies to clarify the point of electrical exclusion here. This is a subject matter. Now, this is a machine. Here, some short circuit occurred and a fire broke out, right? So, this covered under the fire breakdown policy. This machine, there's a one machine and a portion of the, this is one apparatus, one equipment, but it has contained one small electrical apparatus which caught fire, and entire mechanical including electrical oxygen was damaged. Then this electrical oxygen was damaged, then it is to be covered. But mind you, it is not a mechanical exclusion. This is a electrical exclusion. So always keep in mind, sometime in large machine where some motors are there, some major part is mechanical, machine is one, and there's a motor short circuit occur and entire machine damage. So people say no, now entire machine is to be covered under the measure. This is not correct. It is not a mechanical exclusion. This is an electrical exclusion. This will always keep in mind. Now another thing is, this is a machine. There's a machine number 2, that cable connector, there's an OCB. What happened? There's a short circuiting occurred here in machine. It catches fire and the OCB trip. Now the fire through cable traveled through machine number 2, right? In this case, this is covered under MMB policy and this is covered under fire policy. These are the, this is, I'm discussing of the anatomy of fire and electrical exclusion. Now case number 3, this machine has, this is also a machine number 2, there's 4 parts. Now short circuiting occurred here, and because of the short circuiting, fire spread here, fire spread, and this reaches to, there's a short, and there's a short also here in the cable. It doesn't trip even that time, and this short circuit goes through this machine also. It's short, the cable short, the machine 2 short, then it tripped, right? Then it catches fire, then both are under, to be covered under the machinery breakdown policy. So these are few glimpses to clarify the electrical exclusion and the impact of electrical exclusion and mixing with the fire policy. Now important exclusion: accident, loss or damage or liability resulting from overload experiment or test requiring the imposition of a normal one load, they are not covered. Intended overloading and is not covered, but accidental overloading is covered. Remember, you should not confuse. Sometimes the machine accidentally overload during operation. Accidentally, it is covered. What is not covered is intended overloading, when we test an equipment for overloading. So there's the difference between intended overloading and accidental overloading. Now that's a very important point which I want to discuss. Gradually developing flaws, defect, cracks or partial fracture in any part not necessitating immediate stoppage, although at some future time repair or renewal of the parts affected may be necessary. This, many times we use this to repudiate claims. Many times surveyors use this because they say it's a developing flaw, it's a developing defect, because every defect is developing, every crack is developing. But what really means it? I mean, every crack will develop, it will develop. You'll say, no, we'll not take him. Gradually, and a crack will develop gradually. But what is the premise of this exclusion? Why this is not a sudden unforeseen damage? why it is not a sudden unforeseen damage like any other, and what is the borderline which demarcate this exclusion from the coverage of the policy. Let's see. Now let's see, analyze the exclusion. Any flaw, defect, crack, or partial fracture gradually developing is say one part. Another part says the defect does not require immediate stoppage, although the part affected is to be replaced or renewed at some future time. So there are two parts of it. Is gradually developing, and second part is the defect does not require immediate stoppage, although the part affected is to be replaced or renewed at some. So we have to read it twicely. Now there is a very interesting case has come. Now what happened? In one of the case, a engine has seized, a DG set engine has seized. And when it is being brought to repair for normal seizure replacement, the piston one replaced, and when the crankshaft has gone for grinding, because crank is to be grind every time. So they observe a crack on the pin. There was a crack observed on the pin. Correct? Now the engine was running with that crack for quite some time. It is still there. It had not been noticed had there been no seizure. It is only came to notice when it is seized and it is brought to the repair workshop, and when it was for grinding, then it was observed that there was a crack in the pin. Now you can say it's a gradually developing flaw. You can say it's a gradually developing fitment. But point number two, can you use that crank knowingly that it has a crack? It can be replaced after some later time. Can you use that though it was working? Can you? You can't. It is technically to be replaced when this came to the knowledge. There are two parts to it, which should keep it in mind. Now, I'm giving some example of this gradual developing flaw. Pitting in turbine blade. Often you observe, anybody who's seen the turbine, pitting turbine blade usually caused by water in the steam operation below rated inlet steam pressure or flow. You see pitting mark on the turbine. It does not require immediate replacement, but they are gradually developing. At some later point, you can find that it is to be replaced. So this is a case of gradually developing flaw, defect, whatever you are saying. You see these pitting mark. Another example, classic example, is electrostatic corrosion in the cylinder liner on the side of the cooling. You pick out any cylinder from the cylinder block, and you see from the side of this other side, which is facing to the coolant, you find these pitting mark. You would have noticed these pitting mark. These are not the sign, these are basically the sign of electrostatic corrosion. Because you see, flexing the cylinder wall causes cylinder liner to vibrate and create vapor bubble in the coolant. These vapor bubble from the outside of the cylinder wall and explode inward or implode, resulting in tiny pits in the cylinder wall, protecting oxide layer. It is also quite electrostatic corrosion. So this phenomena is a case of gradual deterioration. And in one of the cases, I tell you, this has become so deep that the water has came through this pitting mark into the cylinder and enter into this. But these are the gradual, you need not to immediately replace, because whenever you open a cylinder liner, you find these marks in a small number or whatever. There's a phenomenon of electrostatic corrosion. Now this is also the warping of the cylinder head. The warping of the cylinder head is caused condition with cracking, namely overheating. When the head is heated past normal operating temperature, it expands past its limit. As it cools, the head off and will not return to its original size or shape, instead settling into a more bent or distorted form repeated too many. So these are all examples of gradual developing flaw. The purpose is to exclude these, that these are the normal operation flaws. These are the normal operation flaws which may occur because of the reasons, several reasons. The operating condition is not fine. The material of construction may be defective. There is a sudden load varying. There is a local condition. I mean, there may be a lot of. So these are the flaws which you physically see, but they do not conformity for a sudden physical damage and not conformity to breakdown. So that is there. Now another exclusion is deterioration or wearing away or wearing out of the penny part, which is very that the policy covers exclude the depreciation. In the indemnity, the parts which are wear and tear, wearing or wearing out, like bearing, bushes, they are part which has to be excluded. Now that's another. Loss or damage to liability caused by arising by willful act, willful neglect, or gross negligence of the machine or responsibility. Now there are two things: willful act, willful neglect, or gross negligence. Earlier you see, if you see the old policy, you will not find this willful act and willful neglect. You will find the word gross negligence. Because gross negligence, because you all know negligence is covered. What is not covered is gross negligence. But it's very subjective. How you can confirm that this negligence is gross? A negligence has occurred, a negligence has been done by somebody, and he knows, only he knows, whether he has deliberately done it or it is a pure negligence. And you have no thermometer to put in his mouth to find out that whether he has done it deliberately, right? Knowing negligence, gross means knowing. You know the outcome of the negligence even though you conduct. That is called the knowing negligence. But how will know? How? Because that person will say it's a negligence, right? So there, new words have come: willful act and willful neglect, to make it very clear. If it is done willfully, act and willful neglect, or a gross negligence, but still this clause, application of this clause is very debatable, and surveyors are often misusing this term in against the insured. This is gross negligence. There are two terms being widely misused by the surveyor. One is consequential loss and another is gross negligence. ये दो ऐसे टर्म हैं कि सर्वेयर इंश्योर्ड को रेप करते हैं literally, without knowing the implication of these two terms. So one should know the clear, until unless, because once you say this loss has occurred because of the gross negligence or willful act, the onus of proof rests on you. Now the surveyor has to prove that this is the act of willful act or willful neglect. He cannot simply say it is a willful act and will not pay the claim. No. Once you say it is a willful neglect, you have to prove the claim. Right? Then second terms, insured or his responsible representative. Now the question is whether operator is insured responsible representative, and why this word insured representative. If you see the very old policy, you will not find the word responsible representative. It is recently added, say 10 years back somewhere, this word or is responsibility. Why? It is added because a insured has number of organization, number of factories. I am insured, I have number of factories. I cannot be present anywhere, right? So responsible representative is very important. So in my absence, if I am not in the factory, my GM is responsible representative. But my operator is not responsible representative, right? If operator commits a mistake, then the claim is payable. We cannot say that he is a responsible representative. GM is a responsible representative or insured representative. I've given one example. Now there is a lack of lubrication oil in the engine, right? Oil is there, operator is there. Operator know that the engine needs oil, right? He has to add certain amount of oil to make up the oil, right? And he overlooked it deliberately or mischievously or out of negligence, and as a result, engine seized. So, do you say that the claim is not payable because of the responsibility? No, the claim is very much payable. But if there is no oil and there is a lack of oil in the engine, and the operator says to GM, sir, oil nahi hai, we need oil, और GM कहता है नहीं नहीं तुम चलाओ इंजन को, knowing that there is no oil, and if it seized, then the claim is not there. So here we have to clearly understand the word responsible representative. Now, willful means done or suffered by design or purposeful. Act, to behave oneself, to act, force, to influence, or to produce effect. Neglect, not doing a duty, to treat carelessly or disregard. Negligence means habitual neglect, omission of duty, acting carelessly towards others. Gross means glaring, shameful, stupid, and dumb. In my opinion, gross negligence is, in terms of insurance, means that I know the result, even then I commit a negligence. I know that the engine will seize, but I still run the engine. This is a gross negligence, this is not payable. But the point is, who knows it? If the operator knows it, then the claim is payable. But if the general manager noticed, the claim is not payable. That's the point I wanted to share. Responsibility, liable to be called, account, answerable, capable, repetitively, replacing to stand, place one of the stand another. This is broadly. These are the we have already discussed. Fault defect existing at the time of commencement. If insurance, if the party knows that there is some defect and it does not disclose it, and later on it is found that this defect was existing prior to buying insurance, that the claim is not payable. That's why we do pre-insurance inspection in case of machinery insurance policy. That is the need of this. Loss of or use of insured plant property of another, consequential loss incurred by insured. Loss of use of insured plant or property of any other, consequential loss incurred. But this is a consequential loss. This is not covered under policy. Now, what are the special exclusions? We have talked of the important exclusion. Now, the certain special exclusion. Excess is a special exclusion. Now, this is another exclusion. Loss or damage to belt, rope, chain. These are all consumable nature item: dies, mold, blades, cutter, knives, engraved cylinder, porcelain. All operating media, for example, lubricating oil, fuel, catalyst, refrigerant, dow, thumb, felt, endless conveyor belts, thieves, fabric, heat resistors, and anti-corrosive lining, and parts of similar nature. Parts of similar nature, packing material, parts not made of metal except insulating material. यहाँ पे insulating material को इन्होंने allow, because insulating material which we use in motor winding or in electrical circuit, they are all covered here. They are not excluded because varnish or many other parts, insulating material are not made of metal. So here they have word, they said that's why insulating material cover, and non-metallic lining or coating of metal parts unless loss or damage to the equipment, machinery will be forbidden in terms of policy. This has been पहले before 2001 ये था कि ये part company will pay if the machine is damaged due to breakdown. Standalone, these parts will not be paid. Right? It means if somebody say my rope is broken, yeah, my belt is broken, the company will not pay. But if because of the accident, breakdown, rope is also broken, then they pay. Now this has been removed. It means that under no circumstances these items are payable. Under no circumstances these items are payable. Under no circumstances. Understand? So these are excluded at par, beyond exception. Loss or damage for which the manufacturer, supplier, repairer, property is responsible either by law or by contract. It means if you're buying a product and under the purchase agreement, under the buying agreement, if there is a contract existing between the buyer and the seller that he has to make good for certain period, that is called the warranty, then insurance, if some loss has occurred, it is the duty of the insured first claim on the warranty, for the warranty, and it comes under warranty, he has to push their claim for the warranty. The balance part which is not comes under the warranty is only payable, right? And which is, if does not come under warranty, then it is payable. So the purpose, whenever you do a survey of a machine which is new, always look for this, whether it is under manufacturer, supplier or warranty. Ensure if there is a warranty, then write a letter to the insured that first you press the claim on the supplier on the warranty. Now many times, because it is difficult for insured to deal with the supplier for the warranty claim, instead pressing a claim on the insurance company. They prefer a claim on the insurance company, but as a surveyor, you should always tell him, no boss, you have to press a claim on the insurance company. Now, next. This is the general. This is the general losses covered under fire policy. The general losses due to overloading experiment. They have summarized all exclusion, wear and tear due to use and exposure, loss due to willful act, gross negligence, loss, damage, defect, loss to belt, ropes, loss to damage for which manufacturer or supplier is responsible either by contract or by law. These are the general terms, right? Now, the sum insured. What is the requirement of the sum insured? Now, when it comes to the requirement of the sum insured, it is the requirement of this insurance that the sum insured shall be equal to the cost of replacement of insured property of the same kind and same capacity, including freight and custom duty, if any, and erection cost. Correct? Now, many people they say that machinery insurance policy is a restatement value policy. No, it is not a restatement value policy. The requirement may be a new replacement value, but it is not, absolutely not. So never misquote, because the indemnity provisions are different than what are those with the restatement value clause, totally different. You will see now. Now, generally what factor we take invoice value, we take duties, we take freight inward, we take insurance, we take clearing and forwarding charges, we take cost of loading, unloading, cost of erection, right? So these are the component which is to be taken while ascertaining the sum insured. In addition to the above, cost of foundation may also be included in the sum insured if proposed, because foundation are capitalized under the machinery. So if insured wishes to include the foundation, there is a column in the proposal form whether it is says that do you have to cover foundation? If yes, then foundation can be covered. Now, basis of indemnity. That's very important. Machinery insurance and fire insurance. If you see, the indemnity principle is totally different. In fire insurance, they say the company will pay insured the value of the property at the time of destruction. In machinery insurance, the company will pay expenses necessary incurred to restore the insured property to its former state of serviceability. So they are totally two different kind of this. In fire, the company will say the value, and in machinery, they say company will pay expenses necessary incurred to restore the insured to former state of serviceability. Why there's a difference? Because it is a property, it is immovable property, it is a property which move, which operate, which delivered, and it is exposed, and the exposure is breakdown, failure, and this policy covers breakdown and failure. So what is indemnify? That whatever the state of the machine just prior to this breakdown, the company will indemnify you to the same position. And here lies the depreciation, why we deduct depreciation in spite of the requirement of the sum insured. of the new replacement value. Here lies why we apply depreciation on the wear tear part or part subject to normal wear and tear or part for which a definite life is being given by the supplier. Because see the indemnity to restore the machine to its former state of serviceability. Serviceability performance. It means the bearing or bushes or other part which need to depreciate, company will depreciate in the same manner, deducting the same depreciation to restore you in the same state of serviceability. It takes to serviceability. It means the performance. It means the condition. That's why we deduct depreciation on the parts of limited life, right? And we do not deduct depreciation which does not have a limited life part. And that is why we need a new replacement value requirement of the machinery insurance policy. So there is a huge difference between fire indemnity and the machinery. Former state of serviceability, remember, this is operational policy. This covered operation of the machine. It deals with the physical status of the machine, right? So their expenses necessarily incurred to restore the insured property to its former state of service. Always keep these things in mind. Now, repairing, there are three bases. Repairing basis and there's the total loss basis. First, we'll discuss repairing basis. Expenses necessarily incurred to restore the machine to its former state of serviceability. These are the bases. Plus, cost of dismantling, re-erection. These are the broad outlook what we'll pay. Expenses necessarily incurred to restore the machine for serviceability. Cost of dismantling, re-erection for the purpose of effective repairs. Ordinary freight to and fro repairer workshop will pay. And custom duty to the extent included in the sum insured. Now, to the extent is governed by additional custom duty clause. It means the rate at which the machine is insured, at the same rate will be applied on the part. It's not the value, it's the rate. It's not the value. It's not the total value of cover the additional custom duty. It means the rate at which the custom duty is covered, if 12% rate is covered, and the parts come with 15% rate, company will indemnify you for the 12% rate. In consideration to the insured having paid additional premium is hereby, where this is here by incurred agreed value that they shall indemnify during the currency of the tours the additional custom duty. This is why that 3% difference will be taken care of by here. By having this additional custom duty endorsement, the difference of 3%, which you have not covered with the original sum insured in the machinery. Suppose the part comes with, a machine comes with 12% difference and the parts come with 15% difference. So this additional custom duty will take care of that 3% difference. So that's why you need to have a additional custom duty endorsement to cover that excess amount, which is not ordinarily covered in the policy. In consideration of the insured having paid currency of the toward the additional custom duty amount, which may be incurred by the insured over and above the custom duty amount taken in arriving at the sum insured. Whatever rate of duty you have applied, consider in the arriving to the sum insured, and the difference in the spare part rate. So that is will be taken care of by additional custom duty to the extent. Now, following losses are considered. Now, when some breakdown occurred, that's an important point. I want your attention. I want your attention in this slide. Following losses are considered for indemnification on repair basis. What are those? What are to be considered? हम क्या-क्या consider करेंगे? Repairing में हमें क्या-क्या लेना चाहिए? और से देखिएगा. Parts component failed due to material failure or fatigue or any other reason causing progressive chain of damage before machine is switched off prior to it. It means जो part fail हुआ है, जो टूटा है, जिसने मशीन को ओवरलोड किया है, उसको हम पे करेंगे. उसके बाद, उसके टूटने के बाद सपोज कनेक्टिंग रॉड टूटी और कनेक्टिंग रॉड ने तोड़ करके ब्लॉक को हिट किया, सिलेंडर ब्लॉक को हिट किया, तो द स्टार्ट पार्ट वाज द कनेक्टिंग रॉड broken, that will be number 1 here. And now progressive damage means during the, because engine will remain in motion for some time, so there will be progressive damage till it is stopped, finally stopped, to the engine block, cylinder block and other part in the chain of event before the machine stopped on its own after the breakdown. They are also to be covered. Then parts component do not damage physically yet technically, but there are certain parts which are physically neither damaged directly nor because of the progressive, but in order to repair the machine, reassemble the machine, you have to replace them, because what it says, the policy, to put the machine to former state of serviceability, right? Suppose the engine sees, yes, something happened, and you open an engine and you need to recalibrate oil pump. You need to recalibrate oil pump, though it is not affected, but it is necessary requirement to put the machine to its former state. Similarly, all gaskets are to be replaced. Similarly, or metallic gaskets are to be replaced. Or similar things which are technical requirement, like injector, you have to calibrate the injector, right, in order to put the machine to former state, though they are not directly damaged. So whatever requirement is done to put the machine to its former state of serviceability. So there are three components: part directly damaged, part progressively damaged, and part which are required to technical requirement to put the machine to its restore the serviceability. A few parts components solely replaced in complete overhauling process. For example, rubber hoses, fan belts, rubber pads, these sets are replaced by the repairer as a consequence of their warranty obligations. Such parts are not delivered. Now there are certain parts, yeah, rubber hoses, rubber part, they are replaced whenever overall engine, they are not payable. So basically these three kind of parts are to be considered. This is a engine after a overhaul, a major overhaul. Now repairing basis. Now this is, we have discussed what is payable in repairing. Now there are three kind of repairing. One, you get it repair from outside agency. There is a provision for provisional repair. You can provisionally repair at home, and there is a provision for in-house repair. We'll discuss one by one. Now outside agencies. Cost of parts component directly damaged. Cost of parts outside agency. Suppose I give my engine to the outside agency. Cost of parts components damaged due to progressive change. Cost of parts component necessitating technical replacement. Depreciation for wear tear parts are parts for which manufacturer have specified a fixed life for use and life. Now here I want your attention, and because that's very important. Generally, surveyor have a tendency to deduct depreciation in each and every part in a machinery insurance policy, which is not right, because it is not a policy where you deduct depreciation for all parts. And if you are deducting depreciation and everything, then what is the fun of having the requirement of the new replacement value, right? So always keep in mind that the indemnity is to put the machine to its former serviceability. And when you say to put the machine to its former serviceability, always keep basic principle of mechanical engineering in your mind. And what the principle of mechanical engineering says, it says that if there is a movement, so the one part made of the soft material and one part made of the hard material. Suppose a crank is to move, it is to move in a crankcase. So in between these two, we need a bearing. Otherwise, there will be huge friction and both crankcase and both crank will damage. So we need bearing. And the bearings are made of softer material, right? So these are protecting the direct friction between two moving components and to save. So whenever wear tear occur in bearing, though in order to save the two major parts. So basically the depreciation which is being talked here is provided for the wear tear part which are made to wear tear, which are made to die, like bearing are made to, but crankcase is not a wear tear part. Crankshaft is not a wear tear part, right? So the habit of applying depreciation on each and every item, that's not correct. Then there should be engineering sense. We should follow the engineering sense and we should act like engineer. Earlier, the definition, now there was a like those with limited life, now this has been removed. Now I will stop here because that's a very important point for depreciation which I want to discuss here. Now, what are the facets of depreciation in machinery insurance? As per TAC circular, that is the latest circular, they added one more definition. The parts which are not supposed to last the full life of the machine will have to be treated as a part wear and tear part. So now part subject to wear and tear, part of limited life, and now third definition has come. If any part which does not last till the life of the equipment will be treated as a wear tear part. So now this definition has given a very wider spectrum of part, because many of the part which change with the life of the machine, though they are not basically wear and tear, but because of the uses, because of the prolonged uses, you need to change them after a life. Like a pressure gauge, like a temperature gauge, though they are not wear tear part, but you need to change them in during the life. They cannot run till the life of the machine. So here it is given a very, very wider spectrum of this. Now, what is kind of depreciation? One is technical depreciation. One is depreciation due to poor maintenance, depreciation due to use, non-technical depreciation, and commercial depreciation, basically. So what we mean depreciation here, what we mean by depreciation? Non-technical depreciation is nothing consideration. Now commercial depreciation is not depreciation. Our consideration in machinery policy is about these three, not these two. Commercial depreciation, they are nothing to do. These are the three: technical depreciation, depreciation due to poor maintenance, and depreciation due to use. Our consideration is here in this. Now we'll discuss few case studies. I'll discuss some parts like a solenoid valve. Now solenoid valve, is it a wear tear part? Suppose it fails, do you replace it with depreciation or not? Right? I think it's one of the self-sufficient part, a contained equipment. One itself, it has a separate purpose. So when it fails, I think we should deduct depreciation here, because it is just like if a motor failed in a blower machine, a blower machine, we deduct that is a constructive loss, so we deduct depreciation here. Thyristor. Now thyristor, you must have seen in a lot of furnaces, you use thyristor, rectifier thyristor and inverter thyristor. So they fail. But do you need depreciation? I think we should not, because these are not either item of limited life. It may work for days, it may fail immediately. But due to operational condition, it may wear out, maybe reason different. But technically, it does not wear out. It has no pattern of any wearing out, or it has no given life by any supplier that this will run for so many hours. People may have argument on this. Learned people who must be seeing this presentation, they have argument, because I have seen somewhere, but I have not found any literature which suggests that thyristor or limited life part in the sense that it will work for this much hour. So in my opinion, it is not limited life. Then capacitor. Now capacitor is a classic example. Now there are certain things which technically do not wear, but they wear. I mean, technically, if you ask somebody, will it wear? No, it will not wear, but it wear out. Like a picture tube, a cathode ray tube, it does not wear out. Technically, it should not, but it is. So similar thing is the capacitor. Capacitor, they got weak with time, they got weak with uses, they got weak with this, and they have himself is a part in an equipment. So if I had to deduct depreciation, so I'll not deduct depreciation with the plea that it got weak with you, because weak means how much time, how frequently it is used, right? So weakening is also depend on the frequency of uses, frequency of input, output, output, output. So the more it is used, the more it got weak. So weakening is not a part of depreciation in terms of machinery insurance, because weakening is a operational thing. Switching out. So something switching out may get weak, but not depreciation. So there's a difference between getting weak and depreciation. However, it remain a very debatable issue. Many of you must be not agree with me, but I think if I have to deduct, I will not deduct depreciation. Now fuses. Sometimes we do not say fuses are not covered, but they are protected devices. But the policy does not say so. If fuses are not covered, though they protect the circuit and they protect the circuit, they fail as a consequence. And in many of the equipment, the fuses are very expensive. So fuses are covered in my opinion. They are not excluded anywhere. Once they are not excluded, so they are covered. And they are also not a limited life item. Then damper pulley. Damper pulley is a pulley which gives some balances, and there's some fluid moving into it. And during operation, I heard there's some disbalance in the pulley, and whenever they replace, they do a major, because of there's a major failure, or there's a major failure in the engine. So they change damper pulley because of the fluid dynamics inside it changes. So they change damper pulley. So I think it is also not a item of limited life. Now motor shaft. Now motor shaft are, because they are teeth here, their teeth here, they work here, their teeth here work here, and they get wear and tear because the teeth they run together. So they are the item which may got weak during operation because of the teeth. There's a physical wear and tear. Physical wear and tear because the gears are moving together. So it can be considered as an item of limited life. Bearing block, that's a very good example. Now here bearing blocks, I'm talking of this part. Now the bearing blocks have bearing. So bearings may wear tear, but why bearing blocks may get wear tear? So in my opinion, bearing blocks should not attract any depreciation. Pressure switch. Now here comes the third condition of TAC, the third, which anything which does not last till the life of the equipment will be considered as a total loss. Now here you see the pressure switch normally does not last till the life of the equipment. It is to replace in the entire life of the equipment. So in my opinion, with this consent, because pressure switch is a, though it is a device, electrical device, and it works, it's a independent device, but since it does not last till the life of the equipment, so it be treated as a total loss. Now, they are also does not last till the life of the equipment. So they are also treated as a, now shell and tube heat exchanger. They are a long life item. It does not wear out, does not wear out. So it is not subject to any depreciation. Crankshaft is a classic example. Now here you see, crank is a wear tear item or not. I mean, what is the opinion of the house? you give in your chat box. It is a wear tear item or not? Now you see in a crankshaft, you have pins. They are moving on the bearing. Right? These are the pins. They are moving on the bearing, connecting rod. And as a basic principle of mechanical engineering, this is the shaft, and there is a bearing, and this is connected with the connecting rod. It moves, and it is not a item of wear and tear. Though spin get wear out, because every time engine undergoes seizure or something, you have to grind it. So this is a classic example that though it wear out, but it should not technically. It should, but it. So there is a one condition that it should not, but it. And why I'm saying it, if you see the endorsement, I am just sharing it. This is the endorsement. What it says. It's provide depreciation for cylinder head, assembly and wall, liner, piston, including turbocharger, itna put thereof, provision, cylinder head, piston, liner, and for crankshaft, it provide only 20% access. It does not provide depreciation for crankshaft. It provides depreciation for cylinder, liner, cylinder head, piston, right, and turbocharger, but not for crankshaft, right? So it also follows the same principle, and that's why you have a excess, not a depreciation on crankshaft. That's why. So in my opinion, crankshaft does not fall in the category of a item of depreciation. Whenever it fails, yes, but technically, because of the problem, because of the quality of the oil, because of the operational condition, there is a mind erosion in the pin. As a result, whenever undergo a breakdown, it goes for a machining. Piston, yes, piston are item of limited life. There is no doubt about it. Liner are also item of limited life, no doubt about it. Connecting rod. A connecting rod is an item of limited life. It is not, because you have bushes here, right? Bushes will take care of whatever wearing. It does not. Whenever there is a replacement, the replacement will be about the bushes, right? So it is not an item of limited life, because there is a bushes between the piston pin side and between the crank, big end bolt and small end bolt. ये से बोल दो मोबाइल से. Fuel pump. Fuel pump is an item of limited life. I think it's not an item of limited life. It needs requirement. Whenever you need not to replace it, there is a normal repairing required. If there is some breakdown or something have happened, normally nothing happens. It's normally whenever an engine is repaired, it is go for a major overall, simply because there is a normal wear and tear. So it is neither payable, not related with the breakdown, and does not normally fail. It's a very long life item. Now PCB card. Do you deduct depreciation on PCB card? Now many of the surveyor I've heard, they have certain cyclic this. In my opinion, this is not an item of limited life in the sense of machinery insurance policy. It will work as long as with the machine, and there's no sustained life, there's no cyclic life, there is no something like that. There should no depreciation should be deducted on PCB. ABR, it is also a circuit, no depreciation should be deducted. Now blades of turbine, no depreciation should be deducted. Push rod. Push rod, during operation, what happened if the engine is not properly synchronized? Whenever you open any engine, working engine, you see these are bent. These are bent in a profile, because push rod are there to take the shock. They take the shock. They have the cam and the wall timing, and they take the shock. So normally, if there is some deformation in the wall timing or something, the push rod will take the shock and they will slightly bend during operation. So these are the item of limited life. Camshaft. Camshaft are always, here you always take a wear out, and whenever after some time you'll find, because there is a wear out here in the loops and in the bearing. So it is an item of limited life. It does not also last till the life of the equipment. It is waste. It is replaced during the period engine life. Now wall and wall sheets, they are also wear tear item. So there is no question about it. So this is my case study. This is a small case which I'll overlook now. Now coming back to here, back to this. Now we have discussed about the depreciation in depth, then value of salvage, actual custom duty paid, labor charges, cost of disciplinary action. Correct. Now provisional repair. Provisional repair, necessary provisional repair allowed of such repair contribute for certain amount it has been allowed in the policy. Final repair do not add to the, so if somebody you have to do it provisional repair for the final repair to go, and so it will not add to the total repairing expenses. In-house repair, suppose a party himself repair the machine from their own inventory, तो cost of material जो use करते हैं अपने store से, wages incurred reasonable percentage to cover overhead charges, cost of part to be considered from a store ledger जो होगा उससे होगा wages per day of the supervisor, from overhead expenses the underwriter means reasonable value of production time in respect of house machine facility used in repairing. This is there's word mentioned there in overhead expenses. The overhead expenses I have tried to explain here. Total loss, that's the important part. If the cost of repairs as detailed here above equal or exceed the actual value of the machinery insured immediately before the occurrence of the damage, the settlement shall be made on the basis provided for in B. If the cost of repair as detailed here above, जो भी discuss किया है आप लोगों ने, equals or exceed the actual value of the machinery insured immediately before the occurrence of damage, the settlement shall be made on the basis provided for B below. In case where an insured item is destroyed, the company will pay the actual value of the item immediately before the occurrence of loss, including cost of ordinary freight, erection, custom duties, if any, provided such expenses have been included in the sum insured. This is about duty included in the sum insured. Actual value, it means जिस हिसाब से we have calculated the liability out of the repair by this method. Yeah. Now the liability we have treated by this method. If now equals or exceed here and there we have discussed above, equal or exceed the actual value of the machine insured immediately before the occurrence of damage, settlement shall be made out, but then it will be a total loss settlement. अब ये बता रहा है how the actual value will be arrived. He's saying in case where an insured item is destroyed, the company will pay the actual value of the item immediately before the occurrence of loss, including cost of ordinary freight, erection, custom duties, if any, provided such expenses have been included in the sum insured. Such actual value to be calculated by deducting proper depreciation from the replacement value of the machine. It means that he is saying that if the cost of repair, which has been excluded, now which has been discussed there, if it exceeds the actual value, then the claim should be settled on total asset. And what is the actual value? They say the actual value is by deducting proper depreciation of the life of the machine. Suppose there is a compressor which failed, and after all deduction, suppose it repairing cost comes around 4 lakhs rupees. Correct? Now, the new compressor comes around 6 lakh rupees. Correct? And we deduct depreciation of 50%. Say it is 10-year-old, then the liability on total loss basis will be 3 lakhs. So now this 3 lakhs and now the 4 lakhs. As per liability of the repairing, with all deduction comes 4 lakhs. As per the actual value is arrived by calculating deducting the proper depreciation. The company will also pay normal charges for dismantling of the machinery destroyed, but the solid will be taken into account. It means that 4 lakh will be compared with 3 lakhs, and if 3 lakhs is less, then company will say, okay, we'll pay the claim on the total loss basis. Let's see this. This is the equation of repairing basis. Correct? If equal or exceed actual value, new value less depreciation, duty to be taken into account, but applicable time of loss whichever is less, ordinary freight, erection charges, dismantling charges. But there is an issue. It says the repairing basis actually the actual value, and such actual value arrive proper depreciation from the. It means that you deduct depreciation and duty, depreciation, and then compare it. It does not say that you should also include freight charges, dismantling charges, and solve it, then compare it. See, I'll just showing you again. See, if the cost of repair detailed here above is repairing basis, equal or exceed the actual value of the insured immediately before the occurrence of damage, the claim should be settlement on the basis below. So here it says that the repairing cost, which also after the adjustment of solid value, everything should be compared with new replacement value, less depreciation, and duty is always. But excluding ordinary freight, dismantling charges, and salvage. If you see this, right? But normally what we do this because we do not see parity here. Because in the earlier case, we do not see parity. There we say, no, this is not parity because they are to be also adjusted to compare. But if you see the policy, if you see the basic policy, I again show you the basic policy. If the cost of repair as detailed here above equal or exceed the actual value of the machine, only say actual value. It does not say anything, actual value of the machine, and such actual value to be calculated by deducting proper depreciation or replacement. Means actual value to compare with here above, and here above is this. Here above. This is here above. No. So there is a issue, and I also feel that the proper adjustment should be proper consideration of making it total loss should be based on considering freight, dismantling charges, and salvage also. But if you strictly see the policy, it does not follow this. So that's point I am leaving for you to examine yourself and share with me what do you think about this. Or my interpretation is all right, or it is okay. So that is a food of thought for all of you, and I'll discuss and I'll request you to kindly go through it. Now, total loss settlement is this. This is a total loss settlement. Where we pay, these are the components for total loss settlement. Important endorsement. These are the endorsement, something they are, you are know, all do not know. Custom duty endorsement. There are certain recent development. Escalation provision is there. Imported machine can be repaired. Now it is withdrawn. Now they can be covered. So this is my entire presentation. No question. Question answer.
Yes, sir.
Yes, now.
Wonderful.
So now everything is gone uninterrupted.
It's a wonderful and the complete overview you have given. And members, I request that you are sending the question and even sending question in chat box also. But I will request you that you just wait for entire presentation to be done, and then you ask the question, because majority questions I think that sir has covered in this presentation. So very few, or I think there is no question is left which is not answered in this presentation.
I think I have tried to cover everything. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. So, and then the other point is that, see, remember, you are asking this presentation and all this presentation copy. Definitely, we will give you the presentation, but it is not about the presentation. See, presentation is basically for the faculty member or for the speaker to explain you. You are here to gain the knowledge out of this session. So we focus on when the lecture is going on, right? So you'll get maximum out of it. Of course, we will be giving you the presentation. So if any query is there, you can raise the hand. We'll take only one or two queries, because already it's 1.5 hours we have completed. In question and answer session, majority questions we have covered. Kindly explain reduction. I think this is also we cover, Shukla sir. Kindly explain reduction gearbox clause 15%.
वो it is already जो additional endorsement में है. Additional endorsement में I have already, because I have वो slide को हमने आगे बढ़ा दिया है. और reduction gearbox का एक endorsement है, वो endorsement लगेगा. There is a reduction box endorsement. That endorsement is there in the presentation. वो है. That will be there. That will be there. That will be there.
So yes. Otherwise, the majority we have covered. What are the question they have put it in the question and answer session? Majority we have covered.
Right. And what is their impression about they have cleared the doubt or anything about they have left?
If there is any doubt, they can always write us on training@isla.net, so we can or send all questions to Shukla sir and get the answer, and we'll communicate to all the members.
GST issue I will take up. I mean, they can ask question on GST issue, and I'll take up separately, because I have not covered GST issue in this presentation.
So GST we have not fully covered, because in next week, in coming week, we'll be having a separate GST session on this.
Correct.
That time also call Shukla sir, Senani sir to discuss, because we are calling one CA who is preparing for the GST issue. Entire
Correct.
GST.
Correct.
So,
and any question if they want to have, I mean, they can send it to this. I can make a reply that can be shared with everybody.
Yes, sir. Thank you for this wonderful presentation. Thank you all the members.
How many members were there in this? How many attended this?
So it was around 384 persons have attended this session.
Okay.
384 plus the YouTube is also live, so many members are attending from the YouTube also.
Acha, YouTube also live. Acha. Okay, YouTube also live. Okay. Right. So what is their impression about this presentation? They are happy with their doubts are cleared largely. What their doubts are cleared?
Happy. They are saying that it's a very informative session, an excellent session. You have covered everything. You have covered everything. So there is no scope to ask any question on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So in any way, they can write a question
Yeah.
and any query. And for GST, since you are going to have another session,
Yeah.
so that can be covered from that.
In that
part.
session, we will be calling like you, Mr. Sainani sir, and all the faculty also, so that.
Correct.
So thank you, members. Thank you for your participation. Thank you, Shukla sir, for your very
Thanks.
wonderful session.
Thanks.
We'll
Thanks everybody.
we'll meet
Thanks
in.
everybody. Thanks a lot. It has gone uninterrupted. That's very nice this time.
Yeah, this time, fortunately, there is no
Uninterrupted.
problem there.
And it has gone uninterrupted. That is very nice. Normally, so there
We are
was a problem.
improving day by day. We are improving day by day.
Yes. Sachin, thank you very much for your effort, Samir effort. Your team is doing very well. My congratulations.
Thank you.
And you have given a new direction to the Islam. Now it was a directionless. Now at least we are moving in a direction.
So
Now
it is.
more and more webinars are coming.
We take the efforts. It is in our hands. So we will definitely.
Yes. And I am very happy that very new persons are coming to deliver their presentation. That's very nice. Very encouragement for everybody. And I've heard Mr. Gadre and Maheshwari and all those guys are.
Yeah, we have around about 45 people team who is round the clock working on this. Okay,
Achha.
efforts. It's not though my face is there, but it's a team effort.
Oh, I see. It is only possible because of the team and the young
Yeah,
team.
it's not possible because of team. And I appeal to all the members also. They should also join for this noble cause of sharing the knowledge.
Correct. Whosoever expertise in any field, they
Forward,
should.
they can send their presentation. We can
Correct.
have it there. This thing also.
Correct.
We will take only one question, Mr.
Correct.
Bashir
Hmm.
Sayyed from Sangli.
बोलिए बोलिए
Hello, Bashir ji.
हाँ बोलिए हेलो
I think there connection problem.
कोई और ले लीजिए किसी का
Okay. Mr. Avtar Singh Kapoor.
हेलो
हेलो
यस
हाँ शुक्ला जी क्या हाल चाल है बहुत देर के
बढ़िया।
बाद मुलाकात हो रही है
आप कैसे
हाँ बस बढ़िया जी मेरा ये क्वेश्चन है
जी
कि जो क्रैंकशाफ्ट है ये मैक्सिमम 4 बार ये ग्राइंड होती है
जी
पहले में 10,000 सेकंड टाइम में 10,000 और आफ्टर 40,000 इट इज यूजलेस इट इज डिक्लेयर्ड एज यूजलेस is to be replaced then this becomes the ambiguity the crankshaft which has already been ground for 4 times इसके ऊपर भी हम सिर्फ 20% लगा रहे हैं और जो नई है उसके ऊपर भी 20% लगा रहे हैं with no depreciation this is an ambiguity
This is not an ambiguity. In fact, this is a basic principle of this. This is, in fact, this grinding is not a standard recommended grinding. Now, in every case, crankshaft will be grounded. It is grounded because the quality of lubrication is not proper. It is grounded because the quality of load, the quality of maintenance is not of standard. If you see the manual of the Cummins or any Cummins, it is not necessary that every time it is to be grounded. It is not necessary.
My point is, suppose the crankshaft has been ground 4 times up to 40,000, reducing the damage.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
Then there is no depreciation, and the crankshaft which has been ground only on 10,000, it is also it attracts only 20.
This is I share with you that this is because of the principle of mechanical engineering.
Yeah.
You cannot take crank and bearing with the same class. There's a difference because bearing is made to die. It is not made to. It is made to protect the crankshaft. But in fact, it is not protecting properly because of the lubrication quality because of the things. So I am also amused with this question. ये जो question आपका है, not only you, the many of us are amused with this question. Still there's a why I have explained you technical reason that technically it is a machinery insurance policy. You provide the new replacement value. करेक्ट? हम नए वैल्यू पे बीमा करते हैं, इसीलिए करते हैं कि हम हर चीज पे डेप्रिसिएशन नहीं काटेंगे.
नहीं, मेरा ये मतलब नहीं है डेप्रिसिएशन काटना, मतलब नहीं है. एक क्रैंकशाफ्ट है वो 10,000 डाउन गई है, एक क्रैंकशाफ्ट है 40,000 डाउन गई है, और 40,000 के बाद ये अलाउ किया जाए.
एक्सेस 20% ही घटेगा.
मेरा ये पॉइंट है कि एक्सेस दोनों पे 20% है.
हाँ वो है, वो तो है.
तो ये इसको ठीक करने की जरूरत है. नंबर एक, इसको किस तरह हल करना है इसके ऊपर आप वर्कआउट कीजिए. और दूसरा, जो हम ले रहे हैं सम इंश्योर्ड, प्रेजेंट रिप्लेसमेंट वैल्यू लेते हैं, टोटल लॉस में हम एक्चुअल वैल्यू लेते हैं. एंड द कस्टमर सेज कि आप हमें जो इंश्योरेंस करते हैं, जो भी पार्ट देते हैं, वो डेप्रिशिएटेड देते हैं एज पर द यूजेस ऑफ द मशीन और एज पर द कंपोनेंट the attraction of the depreciation as per the law. फिर हम IDV as per replacement क्यों देते हैं?
देखिए क्या है कि इसमें इंडेमनिटी के दो प्रिंसिपल हैं. जब हम इंडेमनीफाई करते हैं पार्शियल लॉस में, तो हम सिर्फ लिमिटेड लाइफ के पार्ट में डेप्रिसिएशन काटते हैं, इसीलिए हम न्यू रिप्लेसमेंट की रिक्वायरमेंट लेते हैं. लेकिन जब हम टोटल लॉस करते हैं तो उसको एक्चुअल वैल्यू देते हैं. ठीक है. अब क्योंकि एक पॉलिसी में हम, अब वो कहेगा कि साहब आप दे दो, मैं एक्चुअल वैल्यू रहे हैं, और एडिक्वेसी आप फिर नई वैल्यू से देख रहे हैं, और अंडर इंश्योरेंस भी लगा रहे हैं.
अंडर इंश्योरेंस भी,
मतलब he can raise a very valid question that यहाँ तो आप दे रहे हैं पुराना हमें डेप्रिसिएशन काट के, और एडिक्वेसी आप फिर नई वैल्यू से देख रहे हैं. रिपेयरिंग में तो समझ में आ रहा है, रिपेयरिंग में समझ में आ रहा है कि रिपेयरिंग में तो आपका ठीक है, समझ में आ रहा है. लेकिन टोटल लॉस में आप ये क्यों कर रहे हैं? ये क्वेश्चन पूछेगा ना आपसे.
यही.
लेकिन एक पॉलिसी के दो बेसिस आप सम इंश्योर्ड हम नहीं रख सकते.
लेकिन ऐसा है कि जब हम फेस करते हैं टेक्निकल पर्सन हु इज अ क्लाइंट, तो ये पॉइंट कहीं आके अड़ जाता है.
बिल्कुल अड़ता है, बिल्कुल अड़ता है. ये पॉइंट बिल्कुल अड़ता है. वो कहता है कि अगर आप हमको इंडेमनिटी एक्चुअल वैल्यू पे दे रहे हैं तो एडिक्वेसी भी आप एक्चुअल वैल्यू पे देखिए. ये थोड़ा, क्योंकि आप वो काट रहे हैं जो आप हमें दे ही नहीं रहे हैं. यू आर डिडक्टिंग समथिंग व्हिच यू आर नॉट गिविंग मी इन केस ऑफ टोटल लॉस, राइट?
बिल्कुल जी.
तो ये इनजस्टिस है उसके साथ.
तो यही,
लेकिन हमारी प्रॉब्लम क्या है?
अब हम बोल देते हैं कि पॉलिसी कंडीशन है, हम उसको
एक पॉलिसी में दो बेसिस आप सम इंश्योर्ड नहीं हो सकते. हाँ, अब कायदे से ये आपके जो दोनों, हाँ, ये जो आपके दोनों सवाल हैं बहुत अच्छे हैं. ये बिल्कुल प्रैक्टिकल सवाल है, और जो सर्वे फेस करते हैं बिल्कुल बिल्कुल प्रैक्टिकल सवाल है. ये क्रैंक वाला भी सवाल आपका बिल्कुल सही है, और ये भी सवाल बिल्कुल सही है. ये जो है,
थैंक यू सर.
क्रैंक में इसलिए नहीं कि क्रैंक में प्रिंसिपल ऑफ मैकेनिकल इंजीनियरिंग अप्लाई होता है. जिन्होंने
बहुत सालों से आपके ये अटेंड कर रहा हूँ, जितने भी जहाँ भी हमारे हुए. जी. तो बहुत दिनों के बाद मुलाकात हो रही है आपसे.
अब देखिए, कोरोना ने हम लोगों को दूर कर दिया. हम लोग वेबिनार से मिलने लगे.
इतने नजदीक कोरोना की वजह से ही आए हैं. ब्लेसिंग इन डिस्गाइज.
चलिए, आपसे बात हो रही, मुझे बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है. इतने सालों से आप लोगों को देखने के तरस गए नहीं. कहाँ साल में हम लोग कितने बार मिलते थे.
बिल्कुल
गड़बड़ हो गया. देखिए, मिलने का एक अलग मजा होता है, वो एक अलग मजा होता है ना. लेट्स होप हमारे जो लीडर्स हैं वो मिलने वाला भी जब कोरोना थोड़ा खत्म हो.
बस यही जरूरत है, टाइम की जरूरत है. ये हमारे पास बहुत अच्छे, ये सचिन जी आए हैं जिन्होंने एक बहुत तगड़ा इनिशिएटिव लिया.
बहुत he has given a direction at least. एक दिशा तो दी है इंस्टीट्यूट को, एक दिशा तो दी.
के अलावा एक टीम बनी है.
हाँ, टीम बनी है.
ये कलेक्टिव काम शुरू हुआ है. You always gain like Japanese when you work in a team.
Yes.
So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all the
Very much.
Bye.
We'll meet in next section. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Chalo.